Chennai Grandmasters Challengers section. Here we have Pranesh with the white pieces against Abhimanyu Puranik. Pranesh is rated 2580. Abhimanyu is 2652 with the black pieces there. And this is the first time ever that we have a Challengers section at the Chennai Grandmasters tournament. E4 is what Pranesh has opened his game with. Very tricky player, very tactical in nature, and he's just 18 years old. He's already 2580. Abhimanyu, on the other hand, now very experienced. He's 25 years old, has been playing several open tournaments all across the world, and has managed to pump up his rating to 2650. So quite a battle of experience versus youth here. E4, E6, French defense. Pranesh goes D4 and Abhimanyu pushes his pawn to D5. Let's see what Pranesh responds with. These days the advanced variation of the French is very popular. And you can see Pranesh trying to decide what his move ought to be, and he goes knight to C3, the classical variation. For Abhimanyu, the few options are to take, to play his knight to F6, or to play the winnower with bishop B4. Let's see what he chooses here. Thinking for a bit and then decides on knight to F6. The choices now for white is to push the pawn or to pin the knight with bishop G5. He pushes the pawn, which is the classical variation here, and F4 is what white plays. It's the way in which Stenitz like to play here, gain space, but he goes knight E2 first. And the point of this is that after C5 you want to play C3. So white is essentially telling black that, hey, I have more space and I'm happy to waste some time here moving my pieces back and forth, because it just bolsters my center. I can play F4, I can bring my knight out, and so on. But meanwhile, black needs to find ways in which he can say to white that, hey, you are playing too slow here, your king is in the center, I don't know how you're going to get your pieces out, how will you castle? So black has to strike. Maybe F6 is the way in which black strikes in the center. And you can see Abhimanyu taking a bit of time here so that he can decide what is to be done. He plays his knight to C6. Okay, the knight comes out, putting pressure in the center. And now knight to F3. Well, you could play F4, and I believe this might be an interesting way to continue with knight coming out there, because now with knight to F3 you're not able to strengthen the E5 pawn, which is why later F6 would be pretty good. But for now, Abhimanyu goes for a very interesting move, Queen A5. He essentially wants to take on D4. A3, very nice, because now if you play CD, I have an intermediate B4 and then I take back. So bishop comes out to E7. You can see how both sides want to keep this. Black wants to break this structure, white wants to keep this structure. So it's a clear battle. Bishop D2, maybe C4 is on the cards to attack the queen. The queen moves back, and now B4 is generally how you want to play to dissolve the tension. Yes, B4 is on the board. And so after takes, Abhimanyu now has taken the pawn on D4. Pranesh takes it back. So for now, Pranesh has the D4 pawn nicely covered, and there's no easy way to attack it one more time. So black castles. In order for white to develop the bishop, he needs to move the knight. But if he moves the knight, he loses the pawn on D4. So these are some practical problems. Goes bishop E3, which is a nice move. And next up, maybe he wants to play knight c3 or knight g3, and white has a nice position. But there you see Abhimanyu shows his strategy. He's like, I'm going f6, and I guess in only way to challenge this move is to jump with the knight, is what Pranesh has done to attack the e6 pawn. F takes e5, and now the best line is to take here. Black could sacrifice an exchange and then take here. Knight takes, bishop f6. It's a complex position, but one with lot of possibilities. But Pranesh, I think, has responded back with d5, and what a move here by Abhimanyu. He breaks in the center here with d4, sacrificing a pawn. But what is his idea? Because after knight takes d4, hasn't he simply lost a pawn here? Well, turns out that after knight takes knight, okay, you can't take with the queen because then you're losing material. Simply take and take on f4. But bishop takes d4, and now I'm attacking the queen. The rook is attacking the knight. Queen c6 is such a beautiful move, because now you're threatening a check. g3 is impossible because the rook is hanging, so the knight has to move back. And now the next move, very very critical here for Abhimanyu to find a5, activating his rook and breaking the structure, and he finds it. Just goes to show how strong of a player he is. He's just finding one good move after another. Pranesh says, I don't want your rook to get activated. I'm even ready to give up a pawn for that, which is why he pushes his pawn to b5. And now Abhimanyu simply takes it. Queen takes b5 has been taken. And white is struggling. His king is in the center. He needs to get it out. Well, knight c3 is a step in that direction, because now if you can get bishop b5 and castles, that would be nice. But Abhimanyu is like, sorry, if you play bishop b5, I'm simply taking your pawn, so you need to do better. f3 played, and here Abhimanyu thinking, goes rook to d8. Rook moves to d8, pinning the bishop here to the queen. Maybe some ideas of taking this pawn. Queen c2 played. Well, what's the next way to continue this initiative? Knight jumps to c5. But now, can we not go bishop b5 and try to... Well, first he goes rook d1, defending the bishop. Bishop comes out to d7. And now bishop b5 should be the move. Yes, he plays it. So it seems like the worst is over for Pranesh. Or does he have still some micro issues in the position? He goes queen c7. Well, castles has to be played here. Short castles. Yes, and white has, I think, wriggled out of the mess pretty well and equalized here. But Abhimanyu is going with his a pawn. He wants to play it and plays it. a4. This move essentially kind of fixes this a3 pawn. You can't really win this pawn because your bishop is hanging, so it's not so easy to win the a4 pawn. He takes on d7. And now, very important to decide which piece to take with. Actually, you can take with any of the pieces. It's not bad. For example, even queen takes d7 is fine, because if bishop c5, I have takes with a check. So all the moves are possible and feasible. You can even take back with the knight here. I like how Abhimanyu, when his move is ready and he is about to play, he brings his hand and keeps it to the piece for a long time. He's not the one who makes his move instantly, gets his hand, makes his move. He's more like, oh, let me be sure, let me be certain. But in that, he often reveals what his move is to his opponent. And I think he's fine with that. He's fine with giving that small edge to his opponent, that they know what his move is. There you see again, plays rook to d7. And yeah, now knight to b5. Good move by Pranesh. Attacking the queen, attacking this knight here, although it's protected. Shall we go queen c6 is the question. I think Abhimanyu has to play queen c6 and brings his queen there. And now a very nice move is knight d6, because and he does it, knight d6. So if you take, I take, you can't take back the pawn, the knight is hanging. So instead Abhimanyu goes knight b3. Well, you can take here and take here, and this position is quite complicated, but I would say quite even as well. You can go here, maybe win this pawn. I can move my rook here. It looks okay, but bishop b6 played, and now c5. This is an excellent move. I think somehow Pranesh has misplaced his pieces. He wanted to stop rook d8 is what I believe, but now his bishop on b6 is a little bit weird there. So c5 is what Abhimanyu has done. Fantastic move, closing down the bishop. Yeah, I think bishop should have come back. Now knight c4 played, and the knight comes back, but I think black has an excellent move, and Abhimanyu finds it. Rook d4, what a move this is. Now he's attacking the knight. The knight cannot be defended by rook c1. If you take, I take back, and then there is an attack on the a3 pawn. He takes. The knight on b3 is so strong. He defends the pawn, also prepares d3, d2. The bishop attacks this pawn. Rook c8 is coming. I mean, black is completely dominating here. Rook d1 played, but the pawn is not really hanging, because after take, I have knight takes, rook takes, and bishop c5 pinning. And Abhimanyu there taking the rook to b8, thinking for a while, and now plays it. Rook b8. King f1, just moving his king away so that bishop takes d4 becomes possible, and he chops off this important pawn, bishop a3, because if you take here, rook takes b6 and Abhimanyu is winning there, so he takes back the important pawn here on d4. Let's see what Abhimanyu has on his mind now. Wow, bishop c1, what a move. He's just kind of put his bishop here, maybe with the idea of a3, a2. What a nice move this is. What an amazing move. King e1, but now rook b4. Isn't he losing material? He's simply losing material here. Pranesh very low on time, but also his position is gone. Rook b4, c4 piece is hanging. If you move the knight, the d4 piece would hang. He goes knight b2. And he takes with the knight. Well, he could also take with the rook here, because after takes, knight takes, black is winning, but he decides to take with the knight, and after knight d3 played here, he just moves his bishop out. Takes, bishop takes check. You have the knight and the bishop, and not just that, also the extra a pawn. So bishop c3, a3, a2, a1 is coming up. and Pranesh knows that the writing is on the wall. He managed to sort of stabilize his position after getting into a worse one, but couldn't really control the tactics. Now you can see Abhimanyu moving his pieces much more with confidence. Bishop c3 played. And I think essentially you want to put your bishop on b2, a3, a2, a1. Yeah, rook c1 played. And Abhimanyu just keeps all the files blocked. The knight comes here to prepare a3, defends the bishop. Rook b1. Now you can move the knight, but also possible is to push a3, which he does, because now after rook takes b5, a2, and you're going to make a queen. So rook takes b5, a2, and there's just no way to stop the loss of a rook check. King comes to f7. He goes rook a8, and now Abhimanyu makes a queen. Rook takes, bishop takes, and you're a piece up. Opponent only has a pawn here, and yeah, many ways to win. One is king g6 perhaps. I think the easiest is g5, breaking the structure. And if you try to defend it with g3, I'll take, and then move my king in. He goes g5, and yeah, this is an utterly lost position, because there's no way that you can trade, let's say, after this the e pawn in any way. So the e pawn is going to win the game, and so Pranesh resigns there. Abhimanyu scores his first win at the Chennai Grandmasters in the challengers section. He is the second seed of the tournament, and he is one of the strong contenders for winning the title here. At least he showed it in the first game that he is in great form. Pranesh, great experience for him playing at this stage, and I'm sure that in the next rounds he'll come back stronger. But for now, it's Abhimanyu who's in the lead in the challengers section.
Hi everyone, I'm joined by Grandmaster Abhimanyu Puranik, who just won his game against Grandmaster Pranesh in the first round of Chennai Grandmasters, the Challenger section. Abhimanyu, how was the game?
Hi. So I think I messed up the move order in the opening, but it was a very complex position, lots of variations, and at one point I could sacrifice a pawn and play queen c6 and this a5, which looked very pleasant for me because white is not able to develop quickly, and this b5 takes. I I always have some pressure because this e5 pawn is weak, and his if he can develop his bishop and castle, then it is fine, but it's not easy to do it. And at one point I played knight c5. I think that was a mistake. I should have played knight b6. And yeah, then I guess it was sort of even, but if I was maybe on the better side of equality. And then we got this end game where I think it should be even, but with time pressure it was uh, hard to calculate all the nuances. And after this rook d4 cd4, I thought I should be better, and I mean winning almost. And uh, I think this rook b8 and all this, hopefully it was all accurate, and later it was winning, I think.
A very interesting game, I have to say. Also, a fine way to start the event here in Chennai. How was your preparation for Pranesh in particular? Because I believe you have played, I mean, quite a number of games together before, yeah?
Yeah, he's a very fighting player. So I sort of knew before the game that we are going to have a result today. So yeah, I just wanted to get a complex position, fight very hard, and I was sure he would do the same, and that's what we got. We got a very complicated, dynamic position, which I think suits both our styles. So it was, yeah. I mean, I guess we both wanted something like this, and it happened. Yeah.
Fantastic to know about that. And tell us a bit about your experiences here in Chennai. This is certainly not the first time you've been here. You've played many more events. What was the first time when you came to Chennai? And this time, how's the feeling playing in such a strong event?
Okay, the first time I played in Chennai must be like 14 years ago or 15 years ago when I played, I think, under 11 national championship in Nehru Stadium. And yeah, and funnily enough, I played one of my colleagues here, my opponent as well, Karthik and Murli, even then. So yeah, it's there are a lot of memories with involved with Chennai. And sorry, what was the second question? Yeah, yeah, I'm very, very excited to play here because it's a very young field, very fighting, very dynamic, and everybody here is coming for blood. And so I hope the games will be something special and we give spectators a lot of beautiful games and sacrifices, attacks, everything. I think you're going to get it all here.
So no quick draws here in Chennai, as Abhimanyu surely says it. And Abhimanyu, you are coming towards the end of the year, only just 2 months left, November, December. How has the year been for you overall? And like with this event, what are you planning to like? What are your expectations from this event? Let's say.
I think my expectations are obviously I want to qualify for masters next year, but I know it doesn't work like that. So my main aim in this is to follow a routine and not do anything wrong. I just try to stick to what I'm supposed to do, and well, we'll see what the result will be. But the process I think is very important, and yeah, the year it has been pretty up and down, but in general, I guess positive. I had some good performances, some disappointing performances, but this is how it is, I guess. And I just hope to finish the year well. So I'm playing in Uzbekistan, in a Swiss event in Uzbekistan after this, and I hopefully it goes well there. There, yeah.
Thank you so much, Abhimanyu, for your time. A great win today. Best wishes for the round tomorrow.